Welcome back. This time we're once again talking about the 89th Academy Awards. Only this time we're going to talk about what actually happened as well as look at my predictions and see how well I did for the evening. But of course, we can't really talk about the Academy Awards this year without talking about the ending. And I don't want to really dwell on it because pretty much everyone has hashed this out already. But that was one crazy ending. Really, with the whole Oscars so white controversy pretty much behind them, the Academy Awards were pretty much ready to, forge forward and have a good evening, and they were doing a decent job of it up until, award 24 of 24 when pretty much all heck broke loose. And I'll be honest, I actually missed out on that originally because I had stopped watching. I paused it shortly after the producers of La La Land began their speeches, and I was going to get back to it. I just had paused it, and then I was notified that something was going on, and I quickly unpaused it and found out that, in fact, Moonlight had won. And really, that's the whole mix-up aside, that really is one of the biggest upset victories for Best Picture in a very, very, very long time, and I'll talk more about that when I get to Best Picture. But moving on to the ceremony as a whole, I'll say it wasn't a great Academy Awards ceremony. Wasn't a terrible one, and really the show was pretty decent. It's better than the last few as far as I'm concerned, and really, a lot of people went into this fearing that it was going to be politics, and there was some, because there's always going to be politics these days at the Academy Awards, but I really didn't feel like it was just a huge amount of it, and really I felt that there was probably less this year than in years past. And most of the politics came from Jimmy Kimmel during his opening bit and some of his other bits. But he did the best thing he can do when talking about politics is to make it funny. And really, with the exception of a few things that just sort of overstayed their welcome, like the multiple standing ovations for Meryl Streep, I thought he handled the night as best he could. He did a good job of balancing things and was really kind of called into it the last moment to settle, the issues that they had at the end. So really, I give him pretty good marks as a host. He was a little too present maybe at times, but he was funny when he needed to be. And even though not all of his bits hit, I think he did a good job. I will say that it was very unusual to see the show open directly with a musical number and seeing kind of Justin Timberlake take over the entire theater. I couldn't help but think, he actually might be a good host when they're looking for someone in the future. As far as my picks go, if you've watched my prediction video, I picked 21 of the 24 categories. I don't make predictions for the short form categories, so I made 21 picks, and for about 2 minutes there, I was 14-7. And then I went to 13-8 because I did not pick Best Picture correct. And I'm pretty sure most people got it wrong. But we do have 21 categories, and I do want to talk at least a little bit about each, so let's jump into this. I'm just going to go in the same order that I did my prediction column. This is not in the order that they were announced the night of. So starting with Best Short Film Live Action, I did not make a pick. The award went to Sing. Best Short Film Animated, again, I did not make a pick, and the award went to Piper. The short Pixar film that aired in front of Finding Dory. Finally, we have Best Documentary Short Subject. I did not make a pick. The award went to The White Helmets. And I have to say, of all the short films that we got to see a snippet of, this one interested me the most. The idea of these aid workers working in war-torn Syria, saving lives. It's something I think I do want to see. Moving on to Best Documentary Feature. My pick was O.J. Made in America, and the award went to O.J. Made in America. Now, this ESPN documentary was not a standard nominee when you think of its format, but it won on a night that also saw an Amazon.com produced film win 3 awards. Moving on to Best Foreign Language Film. My pick was The Salesman from Iran, and the award went to The Salesman. I was a little curious, and again, as I said in my prediction column, I try not to get into politics, but I did find it a little interesting because as far as everything I have ever read about the Academy Awards, ever since Marlon Brando sent Sachin Littlefinger in 1973 to basically refuse his Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Godfather. And she read a speech from him lambasting Hollywood for its portrayal of Native Americans. The Academy essentially banned proxy award acceptances. However, in this case, the Salesman's director, Asghar Farhadi, had stated up front that he was not going to be here, that he was boycotting attending due to President Trump's immigration policies. And the Academy allowed his award to be accepted by his two picked proxies, Iranian Americans Anousheh Anarsi and Farouz Nadiri. And I hope I got those names right. I don't really have a problem with it, but it just seems like it's a break in what they had traditionally said their rules were, and it seemed rather convenient because of the politics involved. But I'm going to leave it at that. By all accounts, this film looks very interesting. As I've mentioned multiple times in other videos, I don't have a reliable theater near me that plays foreign language films, so I have not been able to see any of the nominees this year. For the Best Animated Feature category, my pick was Zootopia, which was the film that also won this category. And since I'm talking about the ceremony as well as the winners, I do have to say, once again, getting into politics, dear God, the introduction by Gael Garcia Bernal, he definitely dove into politics, talking again about Trump's immigration policies. I don't care if you agree with him or not. I just, if you win an award, you get your 45 seconds. You can do whatever you want with it. If you want to spout politics, you want to thank random agents and people who gave you food, I don't care. But I do have to draw a line when the presenters are spouting off their views. There's enough politics in the show. We don't really need the presenters jumping into it as well. But that's just my opinion, so now I'm throwing it in there too. But they threw it at me. And like I said, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with what he said. It's just the venue, it's enough. Moving on to the next category, and hey, yay, I don't have any politics to talk about this one. This is Best Achievement in Visual Effects. My pick was The Jungle Book, and the award was The Jungle Book. I like this order because so far I haven't missed any. Don't worry, we're going to get there. Really, in this category, I had said up front that I didn't think any film had better special effects than The Jungle Book, and apparently the Academy agreed with me. Moving on to Best Achievement in Sound Editing. My pick was Arrival, and the winner was The Arrival. Hey, there we go again. I actually said up front that I thought Arrival had a better chance in sound mixing than sound editing. Apparently I was mistaken because it won here. It did not win in the other. And this also turned out to be the only award picked up by Arrival, which was my favorite film of 2016. So I'm a little sad about that. And speaking of Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, my pick, as I mentioned, was Arrival, and the award went to Hacksaw Ridge. I had said that if Arrival didn't get it, I thought it might go to La La Land, but turns out Hacksaw Ridge had a little bit more momentum than I was giving it credit for, because this was the first of two awards that it won for the night. Moving on to Best Original Song, my pick was Audition from La La Land, and the award went to City of Stars from La La Land. Right movie, wrong song. I knew City of Stars was essentially that musical's de facto theme, but really I just felt like of the two lyrically that Audition was the stronger song. Obviously, the Academy did not agree with me. It was interesting to note, and I did not know this going in, but had How Far I'll Go from Moana won, Lin-Manuel Miranda would have actually gotten an EGOT, which is when you win an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. And if he had actually done that, he would have been the youngest person to ever achieve the EGOT cycle. But unfortunately for him, it was not meant to be. Next category is Best Original Score. My pick was La La Land, and the winner was La La Land. Not really much else to say here. It was a good score, and I have no problem with it winning. Moving on to the next category, we have Best Achievement in Makeup and Hairstyling. My pick was Star Trek Beyond. The award went to Suicide Squad. This is the only category that had only 3 nominees, so I had a 33% chance of getting it right, and I did not. And now we will forever have the award-winning film Suicide Squad. In Best Achievement in Costume Design, my pick was Jackie, and the award went to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I correctly predicted in my prediction column that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them would become the first Harry Potter film to win an Academy Award. I was correct. I was just wrong about which category it would be. Really, the costumes were great in this film, and really any of the nominees would have been a solid winner. So I don't have any problem with Fantastic Beasts winning here, even though I was incorrect. And speaking of being incorrect, the next category is Best Achievement in Production Design, which is where I picked Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them to win, and that went to La La Land. Now, really, as I said in my prediction video, I based my picks on La La Land not sweeping the awards, and I turned out to be pretty correct in that. In fact, this is the only category that La La Land won that I did not pick it to win. Moving on to Best Achievement in Cinematography, I picked La La Land, and the winner was La La Land. Moving on to Best Achievement in Editing, I picked La La Land to win, and the award ultimately went to Hacksaw Ridge. And for a while there, this really was the biggest surprise of the night. I just didn't see Hacksaw Ridge having that much momentum, especially to get an award that's a pretty big deal these days in editing. Moving on to Best Adapted Screenplay, my pick was Moonlight, and the award went to Moonlight. Again, in my predictions, I had said that if Moonlight was going to have any chance of overtaking La La Land, it was going to need a win here. I just didn't know how right I was going to be. For Best Original Screenplay, I picked Manchester by the Sea, and the award went to Manchester by the Sea, which in theory kept the hopes for that film alive as well, although it was definitely a distant third at this point in the competition. For Best Director, I picked Damien Chazelle for La La Land, and the award went to Damien Chazelle for La La Land. Chazelle is actually now the youngest director to ever win this award, so kudos to him. And like I've said, he did a phenomenal job directing this film. It just turned out that the movie itself wasn't as lucky as he was. Moving on to the acting categories, we have Best Supporting Actress. My pick was Viola Davis for Fences, and the award went to Viola Davis. Really, Davis delivered perhaps the night's most stirring speech, and definitely the most celebrated, especially with her line about where she said, "You know, there is one place where all the people with the greatest potential are gathered, and that's the graveyard." It was a great sentiment, and as a writer, I have to agree with her there. But I'm just I'm going to throw that but in there. I did find that her line about how she became an artist, and thank God that she did, because, and I quote, "We are the only profession that celebrates what it means to live a life." I'm sure she believes that. It's not a horrible sentiment. I just think it sort of falls into that self-congratulatory trap that a lot of Oscar winners fall into sometimes. I'm looking at you, George Clooney. It left this little sour taste in my mouth, and otherwise a really, really, really good speech. And on a night that we really didn't have too many great speeches. For Best Supporting Actor, we have Mahershala Ali for Moonlight, and the award went to Mahershala Ali for Moonlight. And really, I'll say Ali, for me, delivered my favorite speech of the night. It was very honest, it was very heartfelt. I loved how he began it by thanking his teachers, and then ended it by thanking his wife, who, according to him, had just delivered their child 4 days before the ceremony. And for me, honestly, I'll take heartfelt over grand when it comes to acceptance speeches. For Best Actress, my pick was Emma Stone for La La Land, and the award went to Emma Stone for La La Land. Stone gave a great speech. Unfortunately, that it's the categories phantom envelope that sort of caused the problems later on. For Best Actor, my pick was Denzel Washington for Fences, and the award went to Casey Affleck for Manchester by the Sea. I said in my prediction video that this was the closest race among the acting categories. And really, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, if you look at them historically over the last several years, more often than not, they're 3 for 4 for predicting the eventual Academy Award winners. This year, I predicted them to go 4 for 4, and once again, they went 3 for 4, this being the one that didn't go the way of the SAGs. Personally, I was leaning slightly towards Affleck. I would not have had an issue with either performance winning, because I think they were both phenomenal performances, top 5 for the year for sure. I will say Casey Affleck looked genuinely surprised. He gave another heartfelt speech. He did look like he might have needed a little grooming. I'll say that. But otherwise, it was a nice speech, and his comments about Denzel Washington were I think, well received. And that brings us to Best Picture, which my pick was La La Land, and the winner was... Alright, I'm not going to joke about it. The winner was Moonlight. Yeah, how about that ending, though? I mean, I actually, like I said, I paused the broadcast and didn't realize until a little bit later that things had happened. I've already talked about the mix-up. I want to talk about the winning film. I loved it. I mean, it was in my top 10. Even though technically La La Land was above it on my top 10 for the year, I have no problems with Moonlight winning. It was a phenomenally well-made film. It was well acted. It told a very powerful story. I still would have loved to seen Arrival win, but that's just a personal thing. But I do want to talk at least a little briefly about just how big an upset this is and why no one really thought that anything other than La La Land was going to win. Now, since the Screen Actors Guild started their award ceremony in 1995, we've had the three major guild awards. You've got the Producers Guild Award, the Directors Guild Award, the Screen Actors Guild Award, and they give out their Best Cast, which is essentially their Best Picture. And since that time, before this year, only one film had failed to win any of those three and take Best Picture at the Academy Awards. That film was in the very first year of the Screen Actors Guild Award in 1995, when Apollo 13 actually won all three of the Guild Awards, and the Academy Award went with Braveheart. So essentially you have 20 years of precedent to say that not only was La La Land destined to win, that Moonlight had no chance to win, or very, very, very small chance to win. And ultimately it did win. So yeah, it's a huge surprise. Even if they had announced it correctly, this would have been a shock, but not one I would have been upset about, again, if it had been announced correctly. So basically, after correctly picking Best Picture for the first 9 years of predicting the Academy Awards, I'm now 0 for 2 in the last 2 years. And as I said, I am now finished at 13 and 8, which is slightly down from my total of 16 and 5 from last year. So what did you think of the Academy Awards? What did you think of the snafu at the end? What did you think of Jimmy Kimmel as host? Did you enjoy his banter with Matt Damon? I personally did, but what did you think of it? What did you think of the winners? Did it fall basically how you thought? What were your biggest surprises? As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my movie and TV reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.